Hi there guys, this is Kart and I'm back with another video, and this video is gonna focus mainly on mentalities, how they work, their explanation, and the character that suits it the best. So here are all the red mentalities. I'll go over them first because there are more complex ones down here, like after this one. And then I'll also focus on some of the unique golden ones, because most of the golden ones just have a copy of it in the red form, and the red mentality is the highest form of it. So legendary attack mentality, it just increases your base attack by 7,500. Now this 7,500 might feel less, but if you think about it, and if you look at my glam right here, he has a 350% attack bonus. What does that mean? If I have that 7,500 attack bonus with me, I can give an example real quick. But if he has that 7,500 attack bonus, this 350% will be applied to that 7,500, and then it just becomes 22,000 or 23,000. I can't calculate exactly, but you get what I mean. And I can show you with an example. If I remove it from my glam, you can see that his attack has gone down by like quite a bit. It is 1025k right now, and if I equip the attack 1 again, it increases to 1,059,000. So that was like around 435k attack, so it isn't exactly 7,500. Alright, so that is the red mentality for attack. Then we got the legendary defense mentality, which just increases your base defense, speed defense, and M defense by 3,750. I do not know why in the talent effect it shows a different number. I haven't exactly calculated it, if it's this values right here or if it's these values right there. So whichever it is, it follows the same thing as the attack one. If the character, like for example, let's take an example of my Kirishima. He has 192% MDef and 191% P defense bonus. So here, my Kirishima will get that 3,750, and this 1.9 per times, or 191% for PDEF and 192 for MDef, will be added onto that. So it isn't exactly that number. It is just the base stats is increased. Same goes for HP. Just increases the base stat by 56,250. If my Kirishima has like 300% HP bonus, this will go up by 3 times, so that will become like 153,000, or maybe 153,000 plus this value. I don't know how that works exactly. I'll do some math afterwards and maybe give a clarification on that. Then legendary crit rate mentality. This just increases your crit rate by 25%. And what does that mean? It increases the chances that your character will hit a crit shot. And in general, a crit shot always deals 1.5 times the damage what it's supposed to deal with a normal shot. So if your character is hitting 1,000 damage in one shot, if he crits, he's gonna hit 1,500 damage. So that's why this is pretty good. Overall, it increases the damage by a lot. So that's that. Then we have something called as the crit resistance, and this is the counter opposite of the crit mentality that we just saw. So basically what crit resistance does is it reduces the chance that you are hit by a crit shot. For example, if you do not want to take a lot of damage and the tanks want to survive for a longer time, it is better that they do not take a crit shot. And in words, on papers, it sounds good, but in general, because of the tenacious transistor, I would not recommend this on a lot of the characters, most of the characters, but it does work sometimes, so it is pretty good. I hope that explained that. Then we have a crit damage bonus. So if you remember a few seconds ago, I just mentioned if you hit a crit shot, it's 1.5 times the damage. This 15% gets added on top of that 1.5. So now that 1.5 with this one would become 1.65, if that makes sense. So rather than a 50% base crit damage increase, this will increase it by another 15%. For crit reduction, it's the counter opposite of the crit damage. When you or your character takes damage and he gets hit by a crit shot, then the amount of crit damage that the character takes is reduced by 15%. Now, if the opponent has 0% crit damage, that means they just have the 50% base crit damage. That 50% cannot be reduced. If you get hit by a crit shot, you always take 1.5 times the damage, and anything additional is what this reduces. So that's that. Then we have a legendary hit mentality, which basically means what are the odds that the opponent does not dodge your hit. And what do I mean by this? There are chances when opponents can dodge your shot and completely take no damage. So if you have this hit percent, it increases the chances of you landing that shot and dealing the damage, if that makes sense. And then we have the dodge mentality. What this does is the counter opposite of the hit mentality. It is the chances that your character will dodge the opponent's shot. When you are hit, this much percentage of extra chance that you dodge that shot and take no damage. This is pretty viable, and I kind of like that. Then we have damage bonus. This is something different than crit damage. Damage bonus works on the normal shot damage that you deal. If you do not hit a crit and you deal 1000 damage, if you have this 15% damage bonus, you're now gonna hit 1150, if that math makes sense. And that 1150 will additionally get added on by the crit damage. So if you have 1000 attack and 15% damage bonus, it will increase your damage by that 50% on that 1150. So damage bonus is pretty useful as well. Then we have the damage reduction, the exact opposite. It reduces the damage that you are taking, and this cannot go below 100% or like the base damage that the opponent is supposed to be dealing. So you can't make the opponent deal 0 damage, if that makes sense. You can go all the way down to 1 damage, which has happened to me, but it will never hit that 0, if that makes sense. So this is the exact opposite of damage bonus. Then we just have the legendary starting rage mentality, which increases your rage by 2. This is useful for your supports if they wanna always proc their ultimate in the starting of the games and like guarantee an ultimate. So this is pretty useful for them. I do not recommend this on your main DPS or your tank because they have better mentalities that they can use. And yeah, that is the starting rage one. And now comes the complex ones. Alright, so for the complex mentalities, we'll come back to the super aura mentality and the hero aura mentality because I would like to speak of the others before them. So this is the crushing strength mentality, which basically breaks off any invincible shield that the opponents have. What does that mean? When characters like Momo or even All For One do their ultimate, it increases, or not increases, it grants them a super shield, which basically makes them invincible and does not let them take any damage and rather even heal if it's Momo's shield. All For One's super shield does not heal, or super armor does not heal, but it makes All For One not take any damage at all. So that's that. And apart from that, so if you have this on your character or your main DPS, there is a 1 in 6 chance to break their shield. Now this changes with the number of opponents your DPS is attacking. If your DPS is a single target damage dealer, there's a 100% chance that you break the shield. Whereas if your attacker or your DPS deals damage to all 6 of them, it's a 1 in a 6 chance for them to break. For their shield to break, I'm sorry, if that makes sense. Yeah, this is kind of a bit weirdly worded. So I hope that explains something. Then we have legendary protective shelter mentality. It states non-lethal damage taken is split evenly between 2 friendly heroes with the highest HP. What does this mean is, if you have this mentality on one of your character, and if they get hit by a damage which does not kill them, then their damage taken will be reduced to a third, and they'll only take a third of the damage. Yeah, so as I was saying, the damage is split evenly and you take 1/3 of the damage, and the rest of the 2/3 damage is separated equally between the 2 of the highest HP characters if they are alive. And what do I mean by this is the highest HP character will take the other third of the damage, and the second highest will take the other third. So that's one third, one third, one third. That's the entire damage. Now, in this situation, if there are only two opponents alive, then the damage split is exactly half. So it's halved. If your character with this mentality does not die, and they take like 1000 damage, it gets separated into 500 and 500 with the other one. And if this character is the only one alive, he takes all the damage in. So yeah, it's kind of recommended on tanks, but it can also be used as a substitute. And after that comes Tyrant Resolve. Now this is a pretty useful mentality. What this does is, it basically makes you immune to numb, silenced, or stun. Numb basically means you do not get to do a normal attack, but if you have enough rage, you can do your ultimate. Silenced, on the other hand, is the exact opposite, and it basically means if you have enough rage, you won't be able to do your ultimate, but if you do not have enough rage, you can still do your normal attack. And then stun basically means you couldn't do either of those, and you couldn't even get the rage if you do a normal attack. Since you're already stunned, you can't do either. And so yeah, the character is just not movable. He can't move or do his action. So being safe from this in the first round for a DPS is a must. So yeah, this is pretty useful as it helps your DPS connect and do the damage, and it's useful, yeah. Legendary Aggression Field mentality, this basically is how it's stated. A common attack is a critical strike. Basically, your normal attacks will always land a crit shot. No matter if you have 0 crit, negative crit, whatever it might be, your normal attacks will always land a critical shot. It is pretty useful for just one character, that's Mirio, since his normal attacks will chain quite a lot, and if you have not enough crit rate on him, this can really help you deal that damage with Mirio, but other than that, it's not that useful for anyone else, because if your DPS is like the main focus for your team, you already should have enough crit rate built on them to like hit a crit every shot. And then right after that comes the Vampire mentality, and this mentality just heals the character who has equipped this by 18% of the damage they deal by their ultimate. So the normal attacks do not heal your character, and this mentality does not heal the other characters like how the chip 9 heals everyone else. I can show you chip 9 for an example about what that is real quick. If I can find one. There you go. So as you can see right here, chip 9 deals 21% of the damage into life and heal the least of your amount of your heroes. So chip 9 basically heals everyone in the party, or whoever is at the lowest HP, but that mentality only heals the character who has it equipped. So those were the crazy ones. Apart from that, we have the Super Aura mentality. Now this mentality is completely useless if you do not have the Hero Aura as well. And how do these work is, Hero Aura can only be equipped on a female hero, and Super Aura can only be equipped on a male hero. And this can only be for one character in your team. So if you have multiple copies like how I have the second one for Hero Aura, it's completely useless for me as I cannot use both of them in the same team. And it's not recommended to have more than one copy for both. And it's also not recommendable to have just a copy of either one and not having the other. And what this does is when the female hero attacks, she gets rage of her own if it's a normal attack, but it also gives one rage to the hero that is equipped with Super Aura, and vice versa. If the hero with Super Aura attacks, it gives a rage to the person who has hero, or the female character who has Hero Aura equipped. So those were all the crazy ones, or like the weird ones in the mentalities. Apart from these, we do have the yellow mentalities or the golden mentalities, which I can show real quick. So here are the golden mentalities. We have the attack mentality, which just does the same thing as the previous one. It increases with a little lesser base attack. Same goes for defense. Increases the defense by a smaller amount. HP does the same. Crit rate does the same. Crit resistance is also the same. Same goes for crit damage, reduction, hit, dodge. Got damage bonus, reduction, damage reduction, and starting rage with just 1 instead of 2. Then this is a unique one, which is the Epic UA Protection. Now this is somewhat like the Tyrant Resolve, but rather it is not that effective. Tyrant Resolve has a 100% chance of saving you from Numb, Silence, or Stun, and it's only for 1 round, whereas UA Protection or Epic UA Protection is for the entire game, that is in the rounds 1 to 20 or 10, depending on what game you're playing. It has a 35% chance to reduce the Numb, Silence, or Stun. How this helps really well is when you're attacked by Nezu, and Nezu has 6 stars on him, he has a 35% chance to Numb, Silence, or Stun you. So if you have this mentality on your DPS, and the opponent has a Nezu attacking you, this will always save you against Nezu. I think it should always save you against Nezu. I haven't exactly tried. It could be possible that it reduces the chance you get stunned, numbed, or silenced, but it has a higher chance, obviously better than 0. So that is how this one works, and I don't think there's anything different in the purple mentalities. They're pretty much the same thing, just the base value right here decreases. Like this is 3,000, the red one is 7,500. Defense is this 1,500 for both. I think it's 3,750 for the red ones. HP is this right here, whereas it's like 57,000. I can't recall exactly, but you know what I mean. Then the crit rate is 10 instead of 25. Same goes for crit reduction. It's 10 instead of 15 or 20. I forget the exact number. You can go back in the video and stop at like what the numbers were. This is 6, whereas the red one has 15%. This is also 6, whereas the red one has 15%. This is 10, whereas the red one has 25%. Dodge has 20 or 25% for the red one, whereas this is 10. Damage bonus is 6, whereas it's 15 for the other one, or the red one. This is also 6% for damage reduction, whereas it's 15, 20, 25, I forget what it is, but it's something higher than this percentage over there. Starting rage is by 2. So those were all the mentalities. Now I'll go over the mentalities that you should be using on which character. So attack 1, definitely use it on your main DPS like Glam, Shigaraki, All Might, Muscle, whoever is your main attack right now, Inasa, it could be anyone who attacks. For the defense one, this should always go on your tank, like Kirishima, Tetsu, Seiji. There are some other tanks which could always use this. This could also go on your supports who want to survive and just use them for their ultimates, so that they just survive even if they're hit, and always proc their ultimates so that they can easily shield your character, heal your character, buff your character, whatever it is. Same goes for HP. This can go on your tank, mostly for your tank, and also your support characters if you have extra of these. So yeah, definitely helps in that. Crit rate should only go to your DPS character, because your tanks will not need to deal damage. Their goal is to just survive. And crit resistance, personally, I do not like this mentality, because if your tank has Tenacious Transistor on them, which heals them if they get hit by a crit, if this thing comes and budges around with that 60% of healing, I would definitely not recommend this. For example, if you have Tenacious Transistor and you want to get hit by a crit shot so that you can heal that 60% off, this is a very bad alternative, because if you do not get hit by a crit shot, you will die quicker and easily. So for the crit damage one, definitely your DPS character like the ones that I mentioned. Crit reduction, this is a must on your tanks, mostly like Kirishima and Tetsu. This is pretty useful for them. This could also go on your support characters if you really want to give them this, but I wouldn't recommend that. Hit is definitely guaranteed, required for your DPS characters like Glam, Inasa, whoever is your main DPS. Why? Because if your character does not land the shot, he won't kill the opponents, and in turn, you might end up losing. Dodge is pretty much good on a lot of characters, because if your main DPS does not take damage, there he survives and deals more damage in the next round. So dodge is pretty good. And tanks, if they do not take damage, they survive longer, and even longer actually than DPSs, and can easily tank in more damage and make the rounds long laster. What? Yeah. Whatever. For the damage bonus, this goes for your DPS. I wouldn't recommend this damage bonus and crit damage bonus on your support characters or your tanks, because again, their role is not to deal damage but rather to support and survive longer. So this is only for your DPS, like Glam, whoever is your DPS. Now, damage reduction is a must for your tanks. If you only have one of this, always put it on your tank in any chance possible. This reduces the damage taken, if you remember from the explanation that I gave. And I wouldn't recommend that on your DPS, because again, their goal is to deal damage rather than taking more damage, or less damage, sorry. Starting Rage, I wouldn't recommend this on anyone, to be honest, because after one point, I think it's level 80, for your characters, you always proc ultimate in the round 1. And if you're able to proc the ultimate in round 1, you should be able to clear out the opponents pretty easily, unless and until it's like Heroic Tower, where the games go on for like 10, 12, 13, 15 rounds. In that case, this could be pretty helpful, but not in many situations, because it's only 2 rage that you get. It's not regenerating every round. If it was, then it was pretty useful. But other than that, I wouldn't recommend that. For Super Aura, this can only be equipped on a male hero, so I usually give it to my DPS so that he always has enough reach to cast his ultimate. For this one, I usually give it to whichever female hero is in my team at that point, because this only goes on female heroes, and for some reason, from what I have noticed, the female heroes used for like your team building in general are very few, like Momo, Mei Hatsume, Kendo. These are the only ones that I know that are actually used in your team. And also Mina and Kyoka, but they're pretty rare. And Legendary Crushing Strength. Now this is a universal one. I have 2 of these. So I like to give this to my main DPS, obviously, so that he can break off all the shields and easily counter those Momo users and not like have them take no damage and not die. So definitely a must on your Glam or your main DPS. Now, I also give this to my tank, because if I'm focusing on my tank, their damage is also pretty solid. And the issue is, if your tank is the only one alive at the end of the game and he does not deal any damage because Momo is shielding everyone, then that could be an issue. So I like to give this to my tank as well, so that he can deal some damage in general. For the Legendary Protective Shelter, I just have it on random characters for now, because I didn't find it quite useful as such. But you can give this to your support characters if you want them to survive in like Heroic Tower long games, if they're hit or something. So that is pretty useful in that scenario. Tyrant Resolve is a must for your main DPS, because round 1 is mostly when you get most of your buffs and like different things. For example, Ship 14 gives you 45% damage bonus just for the first round. And if you get stunned, numbed, or silenced in that first round, your character is screwed. You won't deal enough damage to maybe kill the tanks or something. So definitely a must on your DPS. If you have some extras, I would say you could potentially go for someone whose ultimate is a must in round 1, like Momo or something, so that it's pretty useful for them. For Aggression Field, it's pretty much as I mentioned, it's only good on Mirio. And maybe if you are not able to get enough crit rate on your main DPS, you could give it to them. But this does not guarantee a crit hit on his ultimate, but rather on the normal attack. So it's pretty good, but not generally in use by many. For the healing one, this should go on your tank, like Kirishima, because for one, he already heals when he does his ultimate for like 10% of the max HP. And so, if you give this another 18%, they can heal back even more to their HP and easily counter attacks and like stay alive for a long time. I also recommend this on your main DPS, because there are some cases when they take damage but they're not exactly dead. So when they do their ultimate, they can always heal themselves to max HP easily. and not die and maybe survive for longer and deal more damage. So this is a pretty universal one. This could go on anyone you would like to keep it on. So those were all the mentalities, and the same ranking goes for the yellow mentalities as well. You could possibly, for the unique one, you could give this epic UA protection to almost anyone you would like to give, based on whom you want to survive on a larger, like a longer game. If you want to keep your support always free from getting stunned, numbed, or silenced, you can use this on them, but I wouldn't recommend that because there are other mentalities that they would need rather than this one. So this is a good pick. If you get this for free, then I would definitely recommend using this, but otherwise I wouldn't say doing that is a good idea. So as for my heroes, my glam right now, as I mentioned, has the legendary attack mentality. Then it has the hit mentality. It has the crit damage mentality, the damage bonus mentality, the crushing strength mentality, the tyrant resolve mentality, and the crit rate one. So these were the red ones, which are the most important ones, and so I have them all right now. But if some of us do not have these all, we can always go for alternatives of the similar kind for the golden one. And in golden ones, I always keep the crit damage bonus with me always because it has the highest scaling in terms of damage. Since that was an extra spot left for me, so I just used it there. For my tank like Kirishima, I go for HP, defense, crit reduction, damage reduction, dodge, and vampire, the healing one. So these are pretty much a must for my Kirishima because overall he's a tank who needs to survive longer rather than dealing more damage. And for the alternatives for the golden ones, I always keep a crit reduction and defense ones. Now once you have the golden ones already equipped for these characters and you have extra spots left, you can always fill it with whatever you would like. For example, I would like to give my other characters hit percentage just in case they want to hit more opponents, like how Nezu needs to hit the opponents to stun, numb, or silence them. Same goes for Ibarra. So hit percent is definitely recommended for supports. Same goes for dodge. So dodge is also pretty useful for, and it's a universal one, so it's pretty recommended for all over the characters. And my other heroes, like right now, Tetsu has protective shelter in case he survives. He separates the damage in the higher HP characters so that he stays alive for a longer time and maybe makes the opponent deal less damage to everyone all over. So it definitely helps a bit. And again, he's a bit more of a tank, so he has HP, defense, crit reduction, dodge, damage reduction, stuff like that. Pretty useful. So yeah, and then currently, because of the glitch that is going on for mentalities, that you can equip more than one mentality on characters, I was showing this to the devs on how this is going on for my account. So it has been fixed. For some reason it still stays on my characters, and I will see how when this gets fixed, I'll probably show you an updated video on what my mentalities are for these support characters. So yeah, that was a basic wrap up for what the red mentalities are, how they function, and who wants these red mentalities for them. I hope you enjoyed the videos, and I'm gonna be uploading more videos on how chips work, how different transistors work, what are the different buffing heroes out there, and whom you should focus on at the beginning of the game, stuff like that. So yeah, feel free to subscribe, like the video, comment down if you have any suggestions for me to make as a video, so that I know what you guys want and I can definitely focus on making a video for that. And yeah, hope you all have a great day ahead. Thank you.